Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, April 26th, 2022. And our top story today, we're going to tackle privacy, but from an employee benefits perspective. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Tim Rouse is the Executive Director for the Spark Institute, and Jamie McInnes is the CEO and President of Oculus Partners. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. And we're going to talk about data sharing. And Tim, I want to come to you because when I think of data sharing, there's a lot that goes into my mind. Why don't you break it down for us? Why is data sharing an important topic, especially in the employee benefit space?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background here, Jeff. We had done a survey last year of advisors, and it was a pretty comprehensive survey. And among all the data that we got, one of the questions that we asked was to rank the products and services that advisors typically got from their record keepers. And there was a lot of familiar things at the top of the list. One of the things that was lower on the list was financial wellness. And we happened to, at our November Spark meeting, bring these results up. And on stage, we had some senior executives from the advisor community. And they were quite shocked by the results. And the record keepers were also shocked by the results because both groups had spent a lot of time and effort to promote financial wellness. Fortunately, we had a number of advisors in the audience, and they were good enough to chime in and say, let us give you the reality. The reality is we understand the importance of financial wellness and providing financial wellness to our participants. The unfortunate truth is that as someone serving their needs, we cannot get the data that we need to provide that help to participants. So my members took that back and realized that something had to be done. And so on April 1st, we put on an industry workshop to discuss the issues involved in how to make data sharing easier and more efficient for everyone involved. And we were fortunate enough to have Jamie McInnes help us with that and set the day up and walk us through all of the issues that the industry faces.
Well, Jamie, I want to come to you. Welcome to the program. Tim's old hat, so we don't have to pay him a lot of homage. But Jamie, welcome to the program. Let's talk. I'm just kidding, Tim, by the way. Jamie, why is, when I think of data sharing, a lot of the audience thinking about data sharing, we're thinking about Facebook, Twitter, others using data inappropriately, maybe selling data. But this really, to Tim's point, this is really important from an employee benefits perspective because there are advisors out there that are basing their business model on data.
That's true. I would say that if you take a look across the industry, various players in the industry have different perspectives around if they can share or who can give the permission to share the data. And there are different business models out there in terms of, whether or not it's advantageous to share the data as well. And there's a back and forth between, say, the providers and the advisors on that particular topic. But if you take it back, there are problems that need to be solved from sort of a definition from a legality point of view, determining who has the ability to give the permission for the data to be used. So people talk about it in terms of who owns the data, whether or not it's a plan asset, and so forth, which is not obviously deemed to be so today. But that difference of opinion is impacting the discussion between advisors and providers in terms of whether or not that data can be provided to them. There is also additionally a problem because there are costs associated with addressing this from a technical perspective. This is not something that is free. So even if there's a willingness to share that data, the ability to share it in a safe and a secure way costs money. And so that stands in the way of getting things done as well. And then there's an experience element around this, which is challenging as well, because if you are seeking permission in a timely fashion, is that data, if you send it versus access it, how dated does it become? How does that impact the experience? So there are a lot of problems that still need to be solved across the industry to make this work the way that it needs to on behalf of the American worker.
Yeah, and Jamie, to that point, there's a lot at stake here for what we call plan participants, the employees. Having data, good data, helps with creating portfolios. It helps with figuring out how much money you're going to need at retirement. It figures out how much you're going to draw down, right? There's a lot at stake here for these people that are relying on their plan, by the way, to get them into retirement and through retirement. There's
a lot, and the recognition that financial wellness as a theme has been out there for a number of years at this point in time. Originally, it was a lot of the providers were focused on it because they recognized that there were impediments out there that were stopping people from contributing to the plan the way they need to in order to develop sort of the retirement readiness that they need. But in terms of trying to find solutions for that, whether it's debt management or other sorts of programs that they want to put in place, those are highly data dependent. And as a result of trying to solve for this, they've turned up that this challenge around sharing data and having data be available to solve these problems is critical. And the data, while 401k record keeper providers or DC record keeping providers have a significant amount of the data, they're also seeking to integrate other data relative to the financial well-being, other accounts, other sources of income in order to help with that. So gathering the data is becoming a challenge, and technically is a challenge. Keeping it fresh and making sure that the recommendations are meaningful at the moment in time is becoming a challenge. And it takes money to actually make that work properly. So there's a lot out there in terms of helping participants, not just helping them to become ready for retirement in that accumulation phase. And I would say, only to close on this, is to say that with the accumulation now becoming more of the focus in the marketplace, data around spending needs is becoming much more important as well, and helping people understand how to spend down the accounts also. So it's becoming more magnified today, and yet even more important for us to solve these problems.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jamie. Tim, last question before we go to commercial break. And your membership is composed primarily of service providers, record keepers, asset managers, people in and around the retirement space. I remember when I first got into the business where we took the Social Security number off the statement when I was a record keeper. That was a big deal in 1999, 2000. This is a big deal for your members, because you need some kind of key, without getting into too much wonkiness and technical detail, you need a key indicator to be able to connect to a participant. But you also want to be careful, Tim, that it doesn't go to the wrong people, right? I mean, it doesn't go to the cyber attackers, or isn't used for nefarious purposes.
Well, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And one of the things that we did in our workshop, it was not exclusively for record keepers. In fact, we went to great lengths to invite in the entire ecosystem. We had payroll providers, we had record keepers, we had HSA providers, we had student loan refinancers, asset managers, consultants, like the position you used to have, advisors were there. So we wanted to have the broad ecosystem represented. And you're absolutely right that once many of our members rightfully are very concerned that if they share data, that once data is given to anyone, you lose control of it. And from a legal perspective, it could go anywhere and could be used in any fashion. And so a lot of members have been rightfully very reluctant to share any data at all for those potential liabilities.
Yeah, and it's completely understandable. But there's got to be a balancing act. Gentlemen, I need to take a very quick break. My apologies. When we come back, We'll talk more about these workshops, what was discussed, and what are some key takeaways and next steps. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Tim Rouse. He's Executive Director of the Spark Institute, and Jamie McInnes, President and CEO of Oculus Partners. Gentlemen, thanks for sticking around this morning.
No problem.
Okay, Tim, so I want to come to you, and let's talk about data sharing versus data access. Very, very different. One seems to be just passively passing information. The other seems to be engaged, passing information back and forth on a routine basis. How are you seeing it?
Well, before the break, I mentioned that once you give data to someone, you lose control of where that data goes. And a lot of our members are rightfully concerned about that, although they understand the need that we have in the industry for data to be able to be shared to provide this holistic wellness programs that are demanded of by participants and plan sponsors. So some of them have started to realize that maybe we're not going to be sharing data, but we may share access. So you as an individual may engage with, for instance, an advisor. And that advisor, while you are engaged with them, needs your information. But then you may change advisors. If the data was given to that advisor, well, that data is gone and can never be retrieved back. But if access was granted, well, access can be turned on and turned off. And that changes the complexity a little bit in terms of some of the concerns that folks have.
Absolutely, Tim. And Jamie, I want to come to you because at these workshops, I think you have identified, you in the ecosystem, people from the ecosystem really identified some clear needs here. And I want to hit the legal and compliance issues first because that's the one that really sticks out to me as being a big driver of conversation.
Well, Jeff, I know you've got a show coming up on that where that's going to go deeper, and they'll leave it to the lawyers to go deep in the way only they can. But yes, the states are putting regulations out there that are going to set standards. The federal government has as yet not, and as such, the providers out there are going to be faced with sort of a myriad of standards that are going to be challenging to address. I believe that the industry is going to need to come to terms with a view on what they think the regulations should state at the federal level. And so to solve from a next step perspective, provide a perspective out there on what the industry should deem to be appropriate relative to accessing data at the participant level, whether it's going to the retail side of a provider's business or going to an advisor or to other solutions that may be solving for participant problems. So we will come to, as a next step, as an industry, and Tim can talk about some of the things we're doing to try and get to that, a solution around that. But beyond that, that data access and data sharing component requires technical issues to be addressed as well. API-based data sharing sort of approaches or data access approaches is going to be a critical step in moving the industry forward to enable this to happen in a more cost-effective, timely, and frankly controlled fashion. And that is going to have to get addressed as well. Incumbent within that, the experience that people provide to make sure that as data moves from one provider to another, that experience doesn't feel odd and it feels natural is going to have to be solved as well. And then finally, ensuring that it can get paid for. Who's paying for this infrastructure to be put in place? That has to be solved for as well. These are all things that are going to need to come to the fore in the next several years in order to get to where we want to be.
Tim, I want to come to you because I'm thinking back. I'm going back in my Wayback Machine in 2008. The new 403B regs were going to become effective January 1st, 2009. And Spark led the way in what we called back then information sharing, an information sharing agreement. This sounds like that, but on steroids.
It is absolutely. Yes, that is a good example where in a 403B plan where you had multiple vendors, there by necessity for a plan sponsor to be able to manage that multi-vendor environment, they needed to have data shared between vendors, and Spark did help facilitate that. How Spark's planning to facilitate this discussion is in a couple of ways. First, we're going to do some deep research into what plan sponsors' thoughts are regarding privacy and data security. We want to understand what their concerns are, and we also want to explain to them some of the potential ramifications of different paths. We then want to do a deep dive with participants. There may be differences based on demographics. Younger employees may have a different opinion of privacy than older folks, people my age, who get very concerned when they hear the word privacy. So we want to really get a deeper sense of what all of the parties involved here are thinking. And then finally, we're looking at other areas like healthcare, because healthcare has been dealing with HIPAA and HIPAA regulations for a long time, and there might be some things there that we can leverage as an industry to work with.
Yeah, and Jamie, I mean, just listening to Tim talk, and I know you lived through this as well. I mean, back in 2008, we didn't have the Twitter explosion, the Facebook explosion. Here we are. There's a lot of concern around privacy, and we don't yet know all the issues. I mean, you all did a very thorough job in talking about this, but you may uncover more issues as you're trying to solve this problem. So your whiteboard could be the length of a room.
And likely will be.
I'm not wishing that on you.
Well, given the breadth of diversity of the industry and how they're thinking about this problem, that whiteboard is going to be pretty long in terms of solving the problem. I agree with you. Back in 2008, 2009, the lack of sort of really pervasive social media was a very different environment. I think today, folks are getting, it sounds odd, but much more accustomed with the experience they're having online being reflective of things that, the environment knows now about them, that they didn't necessarily share intentionally. So I think Tim's point on sort of the demographic points in the participants, who's going to be more comfortable or not, I think we're moving ultimately towards a place where people are just going to expect that you do know these things and that the help is coming with the right context. Otherwise, it's not going to be a valued service. So we probably are in the midst of a sort of an inflection point here between generations around that. But we're going to have to solve for it, understanding there is that difference, probably, likely, if the research shows it, between various components of the population.
Yep, and it could be code section too, right? It could be someone who's in a 401k or a 403b might have a different point of view than someone in a governmental 457 plan that's also in a pension. Maybe where that plan could be supplemental as opposed to primary, like some of these other vehicles.
True. And if it is, and it's not really the primary point around which to build the experience, it would be somewhat inappropriate. So yes, thinking that through is going to be important as well. Agreed, Jeff.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jamie. Go ahead, Tim.
And then, Jeff, one of the final things that we're looking to do is we need to really build that industry consensus on these privacy principles and data security. We, the financial services industry, are actually the small player in these global discussions with policymakers, both in Washington and at the state levels, because the bigger players are the Googles, the Amazons, the Facebooks of the world. And one area where we do have consensus is that employee benefits and that relationship is different than a consumer who's buying something on the internet. It's a different relationship. And so we need to think through that more deeply.
Yeah. Well, as Jamie mentioned, we're going to have another show focused on the legal aspects of this. But gentlemen, I think we're going to be talking about this for a long time to come. I think you're going to be very busy working this out. I think it's a labor of love, and I think there's going to be several iterations of this over the course of many, many months and perhaps many, many years. Jamie McGinnis, Tim Rouse, great to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you both back on the program again very soon.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jeff. Appreciate it.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, somebody you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest security news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more in all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, see our latest content, or visit our website and our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung. There's over 100 more you can check out. Until then, we're back again tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same old
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited? And do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.